title of today's show says it all. Canucks played their best game of the season.
And they won, right?
No further questions. No further questions. Hello, Canucks fans. My name is Dave Quattrelli. I am joined by Harman Dial. This is Canucks Conversation. It is brought to you by Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. I think we should just read the chat today. I don't think we need to say anything. Do you agree? Canucks' best game of the season?
They played well, but it's not exactly a high bar when you say best game of the season.
They dominated the second period, and Dallas didn't have their A game. That's the other thing that I think we need to consider in all of this, but I think that's the most formidable opponent that they've put that type of effort against together. What's number two? What if that's their best? What's the second best of the season?
I'd have to look through the schedule again and remember some of these games. I mean, the first time they played Dallas, I know their first period was a nightmare when they went into the American Airlines Center. But from the second period onward, that was the level of dominance. And I think they were getting looks in that first game against Dallas that they still generated some quality looks against the Stars in this game. But I think the first time they played Dallas in the last 40 minutes, I think the quality of their scoring chances was higher.
I'd say number two, if this was number one, which I think it is, number two was the first period they played against the Washington Capitals. What a time that was. Filipino was healthy at that time. Canuck Collector in the chat said, I've watched more Canucks combo than Canucks games this year. That's crazy. We appreciate it.
I'll also say this. I've seen a lot of the deserve to win-o-meter stuff, which implies that the Canucks generated a ton of expected goals. And yeah, I think territorially they outplayed the Stars for a lot of the night. I think Vancouver's team speed was an asset against a Stars team that I was talking about it on yesterday's show. They haven't looked very quick this year. And at 5-on-5, they really haven't had their fastball. It's the same thing that happened the first time these two teams met. And yet, in having said all that, I wouldn't say it was a dominant 5-on-5 performance. You look at the 5-on-5 numbers. First of all, I think a lot of the expected goal metrics were from the power play, because if you look at the 5-on-5 results across the board, it was about even, right? The Canucks had more 5-on-5 shot attempts, but the Stars had more actual 5-on-5 shots on goal, and the high danger chances were actually 8-6 in favor of Dallas, according to Natural Stat Trick at 5-on-5.
What's that second period look like, though? I think because you give me that context, but as a full 60-minute effort, I think you take that and you take what happened in the second, where I think they just dominated at 5-on-5 and on the power play. You tell me if I'm wrong, but you got to come through. It comes down to moments. You got to come through on the 5-on-3
dominant.
there.
This is the thing, right? There's a difference between the Canucks fastball when they're quote unquote dominant and when other teams are quote unquote dominant. I think that's what I'm trying to get at, if that makes sense.
What's the difference?
Well, it's just a terrifying level of when other teams turn it on. And I'm mostly talking about Stanley Cup contenders here. There's a level of they're creating backdoor chances at will. And there is no chance for a goaltender to goalie you, if that makes sense. Look at some of the goals the Canucks have surrendered this year. I'm not talking about this Dallas game, but previous instances when a team like Colorado turns it on for 10 to 15 minutes.
That's fair.
It's terrifying. It's your goaltender has no chance with the level of speed off the rush and the east-west plays in the second period. Don't get me wrong. They created a lot. And I think as a whole from last night's game, there are a lot of positives to take away. They cleaned up a lot of the stuff defensively. They outplayed Dallas in that game. I'm not trying to argue against that at all. But even then, their fastball wasn't, I wouldn't call that dominant. They had the upper hand. They were outplaying Dallas. But this is part of my concern with this Canucks team too, is, hey, if they can do what they did against Dallas most games, where territorially they're controlling play, their zone exits are clean, they are creating a lot of shots and chances, then you'd feel very optimistic about the outlook of this team. I don't know if the Canucks can do this with consistency, because this has been more the exception rather than the norm in terms of them actually controlling 5-on-5 play. And then secondly, even in the games where they control the proceedings and get some looks offensively, do they have the game breakers that can actually finish? Whereas, like, you look at the Stars in that game, right? They didn't
Mm.
I don't think they played well at all. And that's why I have some question marks about them as far as the whole cup contender conversation is concerned. But you look at what Jason Robertson did, for example. He strips Kiefer Sherwood of the puck and snipes it bar down, all in one fell swoop. Who on the Canucks can do that? You look at what Mikko Rantanen did to ice the game in the third period, where he sees Brock Besser's back defensively, spinorama backhander bar down.
Yep.
Kidding me? There's just a level of finishing ability, and even just the east-west movement where you're getting a goaltender to move side to side. Those are the most dangerous scoring chance types in hockey. And I don't think the Canucks had a ton of those. Again, Ottinger played unbelievably. The Canucks played well. I'm not trying to take a negative stance on this by any means, but I also don't think it's fair to come on here and act like they completely blew the Stars out in terms of how the game was actually played.
I wanted to dive into the third period because I thought for the most part the Canucks defensive structure was a lot better last night. I thought there was a lot less of, thank God we did that episode where we explained, okay, guys are chasing and this is what's happening, and we did the system show yesterday, because they did a really good job of playing their system last night. It was really, really good. And again, this idea, I think Adam Foote even answered a question about it. I think he agrees with what I'm about to say. This idea that the Canucks, oh, well, they did well in the second, but they gave it away. They didn't show up for the third. Like, the goal that was scored was a bad pinch by Tom Willander. Quinn Hughes probably shouldn't have gone as well, but it comes down to quick moments like that. And that was a moment where the Canucks got burned and the Stars took advantage of it. You give up a breakaway because a guy or two guys make mistakes. Like, that happens sometimes. And I thought for the most part, I don't know, I thought they played well. And I know you're not saying they didn't play well. I know you're not saying they didn't play well. But I'm talking about the third period specific, just because there's people in the chat that are like, oh, third period was brutal. No offense to the people who said that. I read someone's comment verbatim. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't have a huge issue with the way the Canucks played last night.
Oh, yeah.
The third period, I thought it was fine.
By no means am I saying I had an issue with the way that they played at all. Ottinger made some terrific saves in that second period. And I do think the Canucks were a little bit unlucky to not have produced more. But this is where, process-wise, this needs to be a building block, right? I remember at the start of November, they strung together 5 or 6 games where, all right, they were getting 30, 35 shots a game. And you could see, all right, they're exiting out of the zone cleaner. Their defensemen are joining the rush. They're getting more looks from the high slot area. This is all encouraging stuff. And then on the last road trip, that completely fell off a cliff. The bottom fell out on their ability to play 5-on-5, and it became essentially a 2-to-1 ratio at which opponents were creating shots and chances. And the point I'm trying to make is this Canucks team doesn't have enough elite level finishing and game breakers to where they can be an up and down team territorially at 5-on-5. What they did against the Stars last night, that needs to be how they play 75% of games. And I just don't know if they can do that for 75% of games, because they've been inconsistent. And a performance like that shows that even when they are controlling play, there's no guarantee that they're going to win, because they don't always have the game breakers and the finishing ability. I think back to, for example, that Chicago game, right? The Chicago game is another example similar, where the Canucks create a lot of chances, and Spencer Knight, similar to Ottinger, played really, really, really well. And yet they weren't able to get the job done. And then that third period collapse was way different and soured things. But the point being, that was another game where for the first 40 minutes, they controlled play and decisively outplayed Chicago. And yet they still couldn't get the result, because in the minutes where they were sustaining offense's own pressure and getting shots, it just still wasn't enough to translate and convert that into actual goals.
Just joining the chat here. Yeah, a few people pointing out that they really did need to score on that 5-on-3. I think that's one huge positive that I wanted to talk about in my notes here is just that the power play looked so damn good. You texted me, we were texting during the game. We were like, whoa, this power play might be like really, really good. And yeah, you see Elias Pettersson drive to the net. He gets rewarded with a goal, although it originally looked like it was Jake DeBrusk. It's been fun to watch Pettersson play hockey again. Is that fair to say?
100% it has been.
It's been fun, and it hasn't been fun for about a year and a half now. So I'm not saying, oh, he's back. I'm just saying that the defensive game was there. We did our deep dive earlier in the week on Elias Pettersson. He's been fine all season. He was fine, especially at the start of the year, but he's really starting to pick it up lately, and it's fun to watch Elias Pettersson play hockey again.
Yeah, and let's dive deeper into the power play because the first three opportunities they had, they looked electric. And for the season as a whole, that's been one of the positive surprises for this Canucks team is they have the 11th ranked power play in the NHL, despite not having the most talented, perfect PP1 personnel on paper. It was really interesting to me. First of all, they were winning almost every faceoff during the first three opportunities, which you immediately start with the puck and you don't have to worry about entries, which has sometimes been an issue. That's massive. But the one thing I really appreciated was Kiefer Sherwood has quietly been a revelation on the man advantage and has played an underrated role. What you notice is they haven't been playing when Sherwood's been on that unit, a typical 1-3-1 power play formation. DeBrusk is at the net front, and then Sherwood, instead of being in the traditional bumper role, he's a complete freelancer if you watch him play. Like, he's making reads of where he wants to be to support the puck. A lot of times, he's that second option down by the goal line, either as a backdoor passing option or when Brock Besser has the puck on the left flank, Sherwood will come down low as a passing option, survey the ice, and then either look for a play into the middle or a pass across. And you could see on the goal Pettersson scored, Sherwood's off puck movement and how dynamic it made the Canucks look. Because I think one of the only cons with the 1-3-1 power play formation is that it can look a little static, especially if that bumper guy in the middle doesn't do a whole lot of moving. Whereas Sherwood, a lot of times he was attacking the net down low on the sequence right before Pettersson scored. But then you'll also notice, instead of just being, all right, I'm a net front guy in this situation, he peeled up high. And when Pettersson had the puck on the right flank, Sherwood came into the high slot area to present a one-time shooting threat there, which the Stars had to respect. And because they had to respect Sherwood in the high slot area, that's what created the space underneath down low for Pettersson to have the jam play to attack the net and create the chaos that he eventually scored on. Right. So that play.
I was gonna say, should I start drawing? Should I start drawing what you're talking about?
But that space isn't created for Pettersson to create the goal without Sherwood's movement to draw some of the penalty killer's attention up high. And then this is the part I didn't understand. After that point, after the third power play opportunity, I believe, they took Kiefer Sherwood off the first unit
for Evander Kane, which we're going to talk
5-on-3. I didn't understand it.
No.
The question I have is, what has Kane shown you on the power play that Kiefer Sherwood hasn't? Sherwood's been productive in that spot. And you went back to on the 5-on-3, and in 5-on-3, it's a little bit more difficult to create a lot of movement because with three penalty killers, they're just going to sit back. The beauty of a 5-on-4 sometimes is, and of course, you'd always rather have the 5-on-3 scenario, but 5-on-4, because the PK is a little bit more optimistic about their chances of being able to maybe steal the puck off of you, they're a little bit more liable to chasing the play, which if you snap the puck around well with decisive one-touch passes, you can get the opposition moving and end up with space down lower in the middle. Whereas when it's 5-on-3, the opposition just is going to park the bus on the inside. So it can be a little bit tough to create dynamic movement in 5-on-3 settings. But still, that's what even with that context in mind, that it's harder to create movement in 5-on-3 settings, I thought they went back to being way too static. And then the third pair power play that they had too, Garland ended up on that unit. And hey, I've said before this year that I have liked Garland's work on PP1, But with the way Sherwood was cooking in that game on the power play, I would have gone back to him in that opportunity. And I noticed when Garland was in that spot, he played more of the traditional bumper role, wasn't moving as much, and it became more of a 1-3-1 kind of look. So I don't understand why they went away from Sherwood on the first unit when through the first half of the game, it looked so dynamic, so dangerous. And ultimately them not being able to convert some of their later power play opportunities is part of what cost them the game.
Yep, 100%. It's a really, really good point. Just on the power play as well, I want to get this in. 7-7 comment to this. PD won 16 of 21 faceoffs last night and didn't lose a single power play faceoff, winning all 6. That's impressive. That's really impressive. All right. I gave you a number. Do you have a number that you'd like to talk about, Harm?
I do. In the stat of the day, which is a presentation of Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app. From game day eats to paper plates and napkins if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip. Before, during, and after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. Hashtag crave the stats. I want to talk about Atu Ratu. 9:46 of ice time in that game, under 10 minutes. He's looked really good to me. We've referenced this a couple times. In my mind, it's time to bump Atu Ratu's ice time up. Stop sheltering him and deploying him like he's a fourth line center. I think he's earned more opportunity. There aren't enough middle six difference makers, especially at the center ice position. I want to see more of Atu Ratu. You look at some of the underlying numbers this year, his defensive metrics have been really strong. The Canucks are up 8-7 goals wise in his 9-7 in his 5-on-5 minutes. The Canucks have been out shooting opponents with Ratu's line on the ice. The scoring chances are about break even. All of that is admirable considering that the team as a whole this year has struggled to control play. He has some of the best analytical numbers among all Canucks forwards. And I know his point totals don't jump off the page necessarily, but he's got 6 5-on-5 points in 20 games. And you convert that relative to his ice time, that's 1.58 points per 60. That's low end top 9 impact. So it's not as if he's been a black hole offensively either. He's producing 5-on-5 points at a low end third line level. He's putting up really good defensive numbers. And even just by the eye test, he wins battles down low. And I like the fit with him and Drew O'Connor, where we know the biggest drawback with Ratu's game is his lack of pace. Well, Drew O'Connor helps compensate for that. And I want to see it's time to bump him up, especially when the alternative is David Kampf. I don't think David Kampf is going to move the needle. Plus, even with the deployment I mentioned, Ratu's barely gotten offensive zone starts. So even though he isn't getting a lot of ice time, it's not as if he's being fed these super easy assignments where you would expect a forward to have pretty good underlying possession numbers. He is still starting in the defensive zone on a fairly regular basis. I think he has earned and deserves more trust.
There's a couple questions here. I want to get to both of them, but the question I want to ask you about Atu Ratu, Harm, is there was an answer last night from Adam Foote on it about how young guys are making mistakes and everything, and it was a question about Ratu, and he was asked specifically about Ratu, and then kind of went into a conversation about that. What did you make of the deployment of the Canucks centers last night? And for those that don't know, Tom tweeted about it. Do you know it off the top of your head, or do you want me to just read Tom's tweet first?
Just read the tweet.
Okay, let me find it. I remember him saying, and really the main takeaway is that, as we expected, David Kampf kind of took away some of the problems for Elias, or not problems, but the defensive zone stuff for Elias Pettersson. Here we go. This is from Tom on Twitter. He said, wrinkle from Adam Foote through 40 minutes, who was going with a hard match David Kampf versus the Hintz line, then punting the Johnston-Rantanen matchup with an Atu Ratu soft match. That's left Pettersson to play often against Dallas's third line with mixed results. That was a topic of conversation as we previewed yesterday's game, was how do we think they're going to do the matchups? And we neither of us thought they'd give Elias Pettersson a third line matchup, but that's what happened. What did you make of that? And really how Atu Ratu fits into that conversation?
Yeah, it was an interesting wrinkle. I don't actually mind the thinking on that. It's just you've got to find a way, and I understand the Canucks had a lot of power plays in that game. Ratu obviously isn't going to play a lot on the man advantage, so that deflates his minutes a little bit. But I just you got to find a way to get him more shifts, in my opinion. For example, at 5-on-5, there was only a 10-second difference between how much Max Sasson played and how much Atu Ratu played. To me, there's a noticeable discrepancy between how effective Ratu and Sasson have been at 5-on-5. Their ice time shouldn't be that close, in my opinion. And even Camp was close to 12 minutes at 5-on-5, whereas Ratu was at 9.5 minutes. To me, I understand that there could be some growing pains with Ratu if you escalate his usage because he is young and he isn't perfect in terms of some of his reads defensively. But with David Kampf, I don't think it's going to be a perfect process for him to get back up to speed as well. We saw in the Florida game that he was making mistakes as well. So I'm not even saying that Ratu's got to play 15, 16 minutes a night, but I don't want to see many games where he's playing 9, 10, 11 minutes a night because I think he's earned more.
Brad asked this, Harm, who are Ratu's optimal wingers? Drew O'Connor's one of them. Other side, you got Jake DeBrusk there?
I actually like that. I think it gives him speed on both sides. It gives him wingers who are playing well offensively right now. And that's part of the reason why I think you can increase that line's usage is because you're playing him with wingers that he can succeed with. It's not as if he's playing with other inexperienced fringe NHLers where he's got Mackenzie McEachran on his line, or Carlson played really well, so I don't even want to bring him into the conversation, but it's not as if Archie Baines, who hasn't been in the lineup recently, is on his opposite side where you're thinking, all right, if you deploy Ratu more often and in harder matchups, are his wingers going to be able to succeed in that higher leverage usage? You've got DeBrusk and O'Connor. I like the fit there. Play them a little bit more.
All right. Let's move on. Let's get to our poll question. But before that, I want to tell everybody about our new sponsor, Movember. Movember is the leading charity dedicated to changing the face of men's health because healthier men mean a healthier world. This is the 19th annual campaign for Movember in Canada, raising funds and awareness for men's health across the country. Since 2003, over 6 million people have raised funds for Movember. In 2024, over 47,000 Canadians participated, and the movement continues to grow. Donate at Movember.com today and be part of changing the face of men's health in Canada. All right. There's a comment in there that I don't like. It is from the History of Propaganda. Interesting name for a comment like this. Said, rebuild rhetoric is short-sighted and dumb. And Brad already jumped in and said, rebuild rhetoric is the exact opposite of short-sighted. Short-sighted is all these shortcuts that the team's been taking for 10 plus years to the exact same results. That has to be a joke. That has to be a joke that I just totally fell for, hook, line, and sinker. Anyways, let's get to our poll question, which is a presentation of Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. You can skip the line and not have to pay cover on game nights if you're wearing the home team's gear. And of course, there's also the game day specials at Greta, including $3.33 off select food items, $3.33 for select drinks, and more. With the arcade, bar, and street food menu, make Greta your spot to watch the next game. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. All right, our poll question. How many points do you think the Canucks will finish this season with? So far, they're at 20 points through 22 games. Jacob, my math guy, how many, what does that put them on pace for? I should know this.
74, 75-ish.
Yeah,
okay,
mid-70s.
So our options were 80 or fewer, 81 to 85, 86 to 90, and the 91 plus. We kind of put that as like the playoff bubble. So the respondents, 20.7% said 80 or fewer, 37% said 81 to 85, 27% say 86 to 90, and 15.4% say 91 plus in the playoff bubble. I went with 81, 85. Like you said, they're on pace for 75 right now, and I don't think, I don't think they're going to continue this pace. I think it's going to improve as they get healthier. as they maybe make moves throughout the season. But I don't know. I think they're going to be in that 81 to 85 range.
It's tough to predict. I would put the over-under around 79.5 if it was up to me. Which, first of all, I think the results here are pretty. They're pretty fair and accurate. They aren't as homer as I thought they might have been. I thought people might be closer to the mid to high 80s. This is pretty realistic to me. The leading being in the low 80s range, I could absolutely see that being the case. But I think it's tough to nail down where exactly they're going to land within that range because, you mentioned injuries and guys maybe getting healthier as a case for them picking up more points for the rest of the season. But we don't know how many games Sasha Demko is going to be able to play for the remainder of the season, even if he does come back. Same thing with Filipino. If you get meaningful contributions in games played from one or both of them, then certainly that increases the probability of them getting 80 plus points and maybe even being in the mid 80 point range. But if both guys are out for the majority of the remainder of the season, then I could see a case where they perhaps even slip under 80, especially if things go like this. And then the big variable is what happens at the trade deadline.
Yeah, exactly.
At that point, you may sell pieces and you don't know how deep they may go on the selling front. Plus,
probably not very. Probably,
I mean, maybe, but there are a lot of unknowns that could cause them to perhaps cut deeper than that.
They could cut a big piece, is what you're saying. They could get rid of a pretty big piece.
Yes, and also Rutherford in that Ian McIntyre interview about a year ago, it struck me that Rutherford pointed out, hey, this is a pretty good draft class, and pointing out that, all right, the best case scenario is they get healthier, get back on track, and make the playoffs. But barring that, Rutherford seemed to say, oh, well, if that doesn't happen, then the draft is pretty good. The top 5 is looking pretty good. And especially with this team's defensive floor not being as high as it was under Rick Tocchet, I am interested to see whether there's a scenario where they could dip under 80 points.
What do you think the worst record in the league is going to be? I'm not asking what team. I'm asking like the bottom, because this is different every year, right? Like,
yeah,
sometimes it starts with a 6. I think most years it starts with a 7, right?
I'd have to go back. I don't know off the top of my head. I'd imagine there are a lot of years where it starts with a 6.
Let me go look.
I imagine 5s and 6s or more 50s and 60s are more common than 70s.
Yeah, last year was 52 for the Sharks, 61 for the Blackhawks. But yeah, like 70. Like, okay, so last year the Anaheim Ducks had 80 points and they finished 25th in the league. So if we're looking at like, okay, if the Canucks get to 80 points, like what's that going to actually look like? Not to mention that the standings are very, very close this year, so it might look a little bit different. Like, the point I was trying to get at is I don't think we're going to see the bottom team in the league. I don't think is going to have a 5 in front of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
like, what are the Flames on pace for? They got 15 points through 22 games.
It's pretty ugly. But we can also look at Dom Luszczyszyn's model for that projection. He has Calgary projected to finish last in the standings at around 69 points. And then Nashville 31st at 70. So you're right. The team that finishes bottom in the NHL this year probably isn't going to have 55 or 60 points.
So where will the Canucks finish? That's going to be the question that we kind of ask as the season goes on. And you're right. There's so many variables that are going to play into it right now as we talk. Where are they in points percentage? Let's see. Yeah, 28th. 28th by true points and points percentage as well.
And for reference, since I noted Dom's model, he has the Canucks projected for 86 points as of now, which is around what the majority of the respondents had them in. But I actually think that could be a little bit over optimistic, depending on how many games played his model has projected for Demko and Hedl for the remainder of the season. Plus, again, the uncertainty of if this season goes off the rails, they could sell and their true talent on the roster could become worse.
Mm-hmm. All right. Cool. Let's get to anyone else. Let's get to anyone else, which is a presentation of Pacific Toyota Dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. You can drive up 72 kilometers on battery alone, then seamlessly transition from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. There's no sacrifices when it comes to horsepower or style with its sleek, low, and wide exterior and sophisticated interior. It's loaded with tech that's actually easy to use. You can plug in to recharge at home or at one of the over 2,000 public charging stations in BC alone. And now you can lease a 2025 Prius plug-in hybrid SE from $99 weekly at 3.49% APR for 64 months with $3,600 down. And it includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. All right. Let's go. Let's get into some questions from the listeners. I want to start anyone else with the report from Rick Dollywall today that Lucas Reichel is available for trade. That didn't last long, hey? 13 games played. Lucas Reichel played some center for the Canucks. He's most recently played some fourth line wing. Canucks are getting healthier. Canucks have Jonathan Lekkerimäki just sitting in Abbotsford. He's going to play this weekend, I would assume, in Abbotsford, that is. Abbotsford plays tonight and tomorrow. Good for Lekkerimäki to get back into some games, but let's not forget that Lekkerimäki was in the lineup when he got hurt. Like, it wasn't like he was a bubble guy. So this is a chance for Lekkerimäki to get healthy and then come back, and he should get into the Canucks lineup when he gets back. So, the Lucas Reichel experiment, it did not last very long.
Yeah, they haven't given him much of a look on the wing, though. Which, to me, that was right. Like, these 13 games, how many of them has he played at center ice? The vast majority of them. It's only been the last couple where he played on the wing, and it wasn't even necessarily in a position to succeed. So I would want to give Reichel a few more games on the wing before I come to the conclusion that there's nothing there. But on the other hand, just looking at him overall, even with the context that he's primarily played at center, I've been a little bit underwhelmed by his impact. And even if you do give him an extended look on the wing, I think the odds of him figuring it out as a top line producer are lower than they were compared to when you first acquired him. I haven't been too impressed with the skill set.
For sure. I personally, I don't think there's enough there for him to even succeed at the wing at the NHL level. Because also, the big kind of cloud over all this is that it didn't work out in Chicago. So he played wing in Chicago, and it didn't work there. What makes you think, and I'm not saying this is what you're saying, but I'm just saying I don't think it's going to work in Vancouver, no matter how much more of a look you give him. I don't know, man. It's a short experiment, but I don't think the Canucks, if they move on, are off on this one. Like, I think,
I don't think they're off.
I don't think the team that gets him and puts him on the wing is going to have some new revelation.
Sure. I largely agree with you, but if you paid a fourth round pick to acquire him in the first place, you gave up an asset. Why not play him where he's most likely to succeed to see if there's something there before you give up? I don't know. That's my thought.
I think try it in Abbotsford. Is that fair? Like, try it in Abbotsford. Try him on the wing in Abbotsford.
Yeah, you're gonna have to waive him then, though. And it's not as if I mean, let's be honest. You got Mackenzie McEachern in the lineup, and I know he's your boy, but
watch it.
But Mackenzie McEachern is 31 years old. He's a nice guy. I had a chat with him in the locker room the other day.
Yeah, not anymore.
But he has no upside.
Buddy,
he is what he is as a fringe NHLer. With Reichel, I still think there's probably an 80 to 90% chance that he is nothing.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say that he hits. No. I was like, whoa.
No, that he is nothing. But why not roll the dice? Maybe you'll hit the 10 to 15%, or even if it's a 10 to 15 game stretch where he gives you legit secondary production on the wing. There were flashes in Chicago. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it as you gave up a fourth round pick. If the idea was you were giving up this fourth round pick just because he's a center and you think he's going to succeed at center, then I think that was a bad bet. Part of the reason I liked the roll of the dice at the time was, all right, I don't think he's going to figure it out at center, but he might be able to do it on the wing. Whereas you're not even going to give him that extended opportunity on the wing before you give up on him after having paid an asset for him.
That's fair.
I understand it, but again, I'm not freaking out about this. I want to make this very clear. I'm not trying to criticize them. It's just interesting.
Fair enough. Would you? Okay, like I agree with you. Like if a team comes calling, because now it's out there that he's available.
If you can recoup the mid-round pick,
if you can get the fourth back, if you can get the fourth back, you do it, right?
But I don't think you're gonna get the fourth back after.
No. But I tend to agree with you actually that just let him have a couple more kicks at the can on the wing and see what happens. But if a team calls with the fourth, now that it's out there that he's available in a trade, you take the fourth.
I agree with that. But I imagine if you are moving him, the offers are more late round pick.
Brad Lambert, Lucas Reichel 1-for-1. Who says no?
The Jets.
Again, people are throwing this out. I know you were gonna say that. Brad Lambert's younger. He's like Lucas Reichel of 2 years ago. Like there's even more intrigue with Brad Lambert. We did should the Canucks trade for Brad Lambert today at Canucks Army, and overwhelmingly people are just like, no, like don't do this again.
Yeah, don't
do this again. And we talked about it yesterday, so we don't need to dive into it. Yeah. All right. There's still okay. We're not gonna. Hopefully, people in the chat can get some actual questions. There seems to be just an argument going on with one person in the chat right now. Yeah, this is an interesting one from Walk in the chat. Let's do this one. Okay, because we've talked about rebuilds, and usually it comes with the context of like, okay, well, you don't rebuild if Quinn Hughes wants to stay, but this is with the assumption that Quinn Hughes is leaving because he talked about how important this year would be and how this year hasn't gone well so far, and we just did where the Canucks going to finish in the standings, and the numbers all started with an 8 or a 7. So this is the question from Walk. He said, if Hughes does re-sign, how does the team feasibly get better when he's taking up 16 to 17 million of the cap? How about 18? How about 18 million? Would it be crazy for the Canucks to offer him 8 years at 18 million?
You pay him whatever it takes. Again, I don't think the dollar amount is necessarily going to sway him into. But he's going to be factoring in.
The Canucks could probably
where can I win?
The Canucks would probably be one of the only teams that could offer him 8 years, 18. Well, 8 years. They're the only team that can offer him that. But 8 years, $18 million. Like that's a lot of guaranteed money
for sure. But also, with the cap skyrocketing, I still don't think that's your major bottleneck. Your major bottleneck is talent, right? By the time the cap is in the mid 110s, the mid 120s, Quentin Hughes being on a giant, enormous cap hit of a contract with Elias Pettersson as well, those guys may be combining for nearly 30 million. Is that a large chunk of the pie? Absolutely. But even then, the problem is, even if you had $10 extra million in cap space, what is that getting you in a world where top free agents aren't hitting the market, and where it's really difficult to acquire impact players in the trade market too?
That's going to be a champagne problem, Quinn Hughes at $18 million.
Yeah.
Like that's going to be a wonderful problem to have.
You're going to have a bunch of teams this summer that have $20-30 million in cap space and no good players to spend it on.
Yep.
So cap space.
Who's the number one? Who's the number one free agent? Is it going to be Kiefer Sherwood?
Probably Nick Schmaltz right now. It's not very exciting to have Nick Schmaltz as the number one free agent.
Free agent frenzy, and it's over. Kiefer Sherwood, 6 years at $6 million. Nick Schmaltz, yeah. Oh, Nick Schmaltz having a pretty good year. Good time for it. Good time for Nick Schmaltz to have a good year. Wow, he's gonna get way too much money. All right. Another question. Did you have anything you wanted to add on that? What we were just talking about?
No.
Okay. This was a question from. Sorry, I lost it. Oh yeah, it's from Walk. He said, "Have you guys been disappointed with DPD this season?" I'm not ready to say disappointed.
I wouldn't say disappointed, but he's going through some ups and downs without a doubt. He's learning how to defend. I think quite clearly when Adam Foote after practice was talking about they're integrating some younger players, they're learning timing, how to defend the system. Verlander's been part of that lately. He's had a couple of defensive boo-boos, and DPD as well has had moments, even going back to the Winnipeg game, where little things like the routes he takes on puck battles, positioning, tying guys up, defensive zone coverage, a lot of those details he's still figuring out. I think the IQ and the reads and how to snuff plays out. It's not a matter of him needing to beef up, right? We know that his physical profile is already on point. But yeah, he's going through some ups and downs right now. I'm not too concerned about it. It's part of the journey for young defensemen, and we'll ultimately see. I'm curious to see whether he takes a leap in the second half once he gets more reps, once he learns the defensive system better. Because again, it's a change, right? It's not just you're adapting to the NHL environment, but also this is a new system compared to what Talkett was implementing. You haven't had a lot of practice time as a team. These, I think, are normal bumps in the road. I'm not too worried, but you are right to point out that, hey, there have been moments, especially lately, where he and Villander have had some coverage issues defensively.
Rajcraft, do you think this management group could do a rebuild? And Disturbed in the chat jumped in and said, this management would be perfect for a rebuild. They have a really good draft record in their short time here. Ownership would never allow it, though. I would trust, I don't know, like who's lining up to rebuild the Canucks right now? I would trust, I don't know. I think I would trust Jim Rutherford to kind of champion a rebuild. I don't know if he wants to. He's probably listening to this being like, don't sign me up for that. I don't want to do that. But I would trust this management group with how well, like at least the scouting staff, like they've drafted well. They have drafted well. Yeah, I don't know. I give them more picks. I don't know. I would trust them. I mean, I really like Ryan Johnson. I really like Manny Malhotra, all those guys down in Abbotsford, obviously. And let's be honest, like Ryan Johnson should probably be next in line. I don't know if you agree with me on that. I think he's going to get an NHL job somewhere. Might as well be in Vancouver. Like, this is the thing. This is not about anyone in particular, but I heard this discussion about baseball execs recently, and it kind of applies to the Canucks. And I'm not actually no, I'm not talking about anyone on the Canucks. Maybe Jim Benning, but basically the sentiment was like, if you hire a GM or a coach that never works in the league again in that role, they weren't a very good GM or a coaching hire for you. And I mean, like, I don't think Jim Benning's going to work in the league again. And we not to throw more salt in the wound and kick Jim Benning wherever he is, but wasn't a great GM. Won't work in the league ever again. And really, we kind of knew that as he was the GM of the team, that this guy's never going to work in the league again as a GM. Okay. Just to make that clear. And I think when you look at Manny and when you look at RJ, I mean, Rutherford aside, obviously, when you look at those guys, you think like, okay, like if they don't get hired here with the Canucks, they're going to get hired somewhere else. And even if if Manny coaches the Vancouver Canucks for 3 years and he gets fired, that's not going to be his last head coaching job. You wouldn't think, right? If RJ is the GM for a few years, and now we're going down total fantasy land, but I'm just saying, like, these guys are well regarded, and they're not just going to, they're not going to work in that, and they're not going to not have opportunities to work in those roles ever again.
Yeah, I think broadly speaking, though, if we do get to the point where they aren't able to keep Quinn Hughes, there's got to be some accountability on the fact that you couldn't build a good enough team around Quinn Hughes to actually keep this guy. You lost a near generational caliber defenseman because you didn't surround him with enough talent. I don't know if that group should get the opportunity to execute a rebuild.
I would just keep the scouting staff.
Yeah, that's fair. They've drafted fine. I don't have a problem with that. It's not about gutting the whole front office, but if this is a massive if, but if you fail this season and you're unable to keep Quinn Hughes, in my opinion anyway, you shouldn't have, all right, now you've got a 3 to 4 year additional runway to rebuild this team. I don't know.
I
I think there has to be some accountability, and I would want to cast a really wide net if and when you get to the point where franchise is looking at it, if they feel not so good about the odds of keeping Quinn Hughes, and you're thinking about what's the future look like. I don't think it's as simple as we're bringing our whole front office back and they're the ones that are responsible for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Sounds like you're calling for some jobs right now, Harm. Do you want to
I'm
go on?
I'm not.
Do
I'm
you want to
not.
go on the
Stop.
record?
I hate you.
I know. I'm sorry. No, you're probably right. You're probably right. Okay, you saw this news today. Susan Little pointed this out in our chat. Hellebuck out for 6 weeks. Yet another Team USA injury. Team USA goaltender injury. Now, Connor Hellebuck, Team USA aside, that is a massive blow for the Winnipeg Jets, who have been relying on Connor Hellebuck just as much as they were last season. Like he is the Winnipeg Jets. He's their most valuable player. Hell, he won league MVP last year. Big blow for the Jets, who are going to be without their starting goaltender for 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, and it's at least fortunate for the Jets that they've got Dylan Sandberg back, Adam Lowry back, Cole Perfetti after missing a bit of time is back. If you had a situation where it was no Hellebuck, no Sandberg, who's their second best defenseman, no Lowry, who's arguably their best defensive forward, then I would be really worried about the bottom falling out on the Winnipeg Jets. It's still going to be difficult because from a play controlling perspective, they've been outshot and outchanced most nights at 5-5. They get very little scoring outside of that top line with Scheifele, Velarde, and Connor, and their overall team speed isn't very good. They're slow and old. But I still think, at least now that they've gotten some of their other drivers back up front and on the back end, I think they can scuffle along and pick up enough points to where when Hellebuck comes back, I still think they should be okay for the playoffs. But you're right, it's going to look ugly. Momentarily, they could fall out of the playoff race, and it is going to be a really tough challenge for them.
Jacob is doing crazy work in the chat right now. Jacob, do you want to just turn on your mic?
No, look, there's some disagreement going on in the chat. I'm not going to single the guy out in the actual show.
Dude, you're fired up in the chat right now. I'm watching.
Sometimes, people just need to have a discussion, and we are having a discussion.
That's not what I wanted from you, Jacob.
It sounds like a parent disciplining a child. Sometimes you got to have a discussion, he says in a frustrated tone of voice.
That's my favorite part of the show, is like, some people understand this, some people don't, is like, we're talking about whatever, and then the chat is just having their own discussion, and Jacob is paying attention to what we're saying, and he also is like going back and forth with people in the chat, and I'm just watching this on the side as you and I are talking. I'm like, I'm not getting involved in this. Sometimes we'll read what's being said in the chat, but this is a wild debate going on right now, and I don't even want to call it a debate. Anyways, whatever. Someone said Tolopilo for the Vezina. There's one. All right. Never saw that coming, but nice to see Tolopilo Truther come out in the chat today.
Your burner.
Yeah, my burner. I want to ask you this, Harm. It was a discussion today on Daily Faceoff Live with Tyler Remchuk and Carter Hutton. Who's the inner circle of Stanley Cup contenders right now? And it's a little different, I think, than when the year started. Oilers aren't there. You said yesterday you don't think the Stars are there. I agree with you. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, the thing with Dallas, though, is they also, down the stretch last year, had similar struggles, and then they just turned it on. So I still view them as a Stanley Cup contender, but they don't look flawless. There are holes that can be exploited with them. So I'd still call them a cup contender, one of the best teams in the West.
I just don't think they're ever going to beat Colorado, especially the Colorado that we're seeing this year. Like, dude, Colorado has 1 loss in regulation. I think people need to really understand that for a second. They've played 20 games and they've got 1 regulation loss, 5 overtime losses, but one regulation loss. That's crazy.
Yes, I fully agree. Avs this year are the best team in the NHL by a mile. It's not close. However, Dallas in the playoffs, they've been Colorado's daddy. Let's be
That's
honest.
true. That's true.
They beat Colorado. They find a way every single year. So I don't think you can say they don't have a chance to contend with Colorado, especially because, again, down the stretch last year after the trade deadline, Colorado was just killing teams at 5-on-5, one of the hottest teams in the NHL. Meanwhile, Dallas was scuffling. They were getting outshot and outchanced most nights. And I really thought heading into that Colorado-Dallas series, especially with no Mira Heiskanen, that Colorado was going to find a way to win it. And they lost. They still lost. So there's those demons have to be kept in mind. But right now, inner circle, you'd point to Colorado. I think you'd have Dallas on the outer skirt, like just on the edge of that inner circle. You'd have Carolina there. I think they're the best team in the East right now. Vegas, I'd say right now, I would rate as the second best team in the West.
Yeah.
You want to talk about teams that haven't lost very well. They've only had 4 regulation losses in 20 games. They look prolific offensively. They defend well. Not a perfect team by any means, but Vegas is part of that conversation. And then after that, you're right. There are a lot of question marks, a lot of teams that have flaws that can be exposed.
Who's the biggest pretender in the league right now?
Ooh.
I'm gonna give you some options just to kind of go through. Okay, these are teams that as of right now are in a playoff spot. We're approaching U.S. Thanksgiving, right? And that's always what people say is like, there's the benchmark. And it's a little different this year because the standings are so close.
Well, Winnipeg. I had this conversation even before. Like, what Hellebuck's going to come back, right? In 6 weeks, he's going to come back.
Yep.
But even last week, I had this conversation with Dimitri. They're 12-7-0. I think they're too slow. I think their middle six, Ehlers, doesn't have enough juice. I think they're too reliant on their top 3 players, their top line to drive the bus offensively. I still do not trust Connor Hellebuck in the playoffs. I don't see a convincing case for them to go deep in the playoffs.
Are you at all concerned by the Anaheim Ducks goals against? Like,
oh yeah,
a high octane. Oh, you are.
Yeah, of course. The Ducks suck defensively.
So
now they're so good offensively that
okay, this is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Are they pretenders to you?
Okay. Well, are we talking
about?
We were first talking about cup contenders, and that's the.
No, now I'm switching it. I'm switching it to who's the biggest pretender. Not like pretend cup contender. We just went over the cup contender.
Okay. But well, I should have clarified. Winnipeg, I was talking pretender from cup contender standpoint. I still expect Winnipeg to make the playoffs.
They're on the clarify that. They're on the playoff bubble right now. Like they're on the playoff bubble right now. But okay, sorry. So my bad. I didn't set it up properly. Now I want to set it up properly. Team that is in a playoff spot right now that will not be in a playoff spot by the time the playoffs are actually decided. Anaheim Ducks, 3rd in the West right now with 27 points.
I think I view them as around 60% playoff odds. That's what I put on them. I do worry about them defensively, but I also think they're so talented and dynamic offensively that they're going to give teams fits. Now, I wonder if in the second half, because they've been playing a radically different style, I wonder if after the Olympic break, teams are going to have more of a book on how the Ducks attack. And especially the closer you get to playoffs, you hear this all the time from players and coaches, teams tighten up defensively. They understand that, all right, it's time to lock in. It's time to play with our structure. I wonder if the Ducks are going to score as easily in the second half as they have in the first half in conjunction, like through the combination of other teams tightening up, as opposed to the first quarter of the season where a lot of teams are sorting out their systems and teams are rusty. And the pre-scouting element of after the Olympic break, teams maybe understanding, all right, this is how the Joel Quenneville Ducks like to attack, because it's so different than the way the Ducks played last year. But man, they're still so talented and the Pacific is weak. So they've got a legit shot. Pittsburgh is going to fall off.
Okay, before we get to Pittsburgh, further to your point, do you know what the Ducks have a lot of, Harm? Guys that are about to play the most games that they've ever played in their career. So further to your point that the games are going to get harder naturally later in the season, they've got a lot of young guys that are going to be, and how many times have we had guys on the show even and said like, hey, how hard has it been to play this many games? And they say like, yeah, recovery's a lot harder because you're just getting used to it for the first time. You're playing longer. They have a lot of guys, a lot of young guys that are going to be playing more hockey than they ever have in their career. Pittsburgh, you want to talk about them?
Yeah, I expect Pittsburgh to fall off. They've been a great story. They're fun to watch, but I don't think they have enough depth. They just have a number of
good stories,
bargain bin additions that are playing out of their mind.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Parker Wotherspoon, I brought him up before. He's playing 21 minutes a night and is performing like an elite defensive stopper.
Dude's a Norris candidate right now.
Okay, let's pump the brakes. But I don't know how much longer Parker Wotherspoon, who I liked as a number 7 defenseman. I thought, oh, this guy's an underrated number 7 defenseman. Didn't expect him to be playing this well as a defensive stopper in a top 4 role. I don't know how long he can do that, especially that blue line as a whole it's not very good. Still.
Detroit. Give me Detroit. -5 goal differential, and they're in a playoff spot.
So I watched them. I watched them yesterday. I expect Detroit to be in the playoff race. I don't know if they're ultimately going to make it, but their underlying numbers are actually pretty good. And their big 4 of Larkin, Raymond, DeBrincat, and Mo Seider is phenomenal. So I expect them to still be in the race. I don't think they're going to dramatically fall off. Chicago, I expect to perhaps slow down. They just have the profile of a team where they've been carried by goaltending a little bit. They've got a 104.5 PDO. And you just look at their numbers, right? They're at 5-on-5. They're still getting outshot and outchanced most nights, right? About a 45% share of expected goals on the season. But because they're getting elite goaltending and because they're shooting the lights out, they're a +12 goal differential at 5-on-5. I think that could come back to bite them. Seattle, I still don't think is very good.
Yep.
I expect Seattle to fall out of it. They're the 9th best team in the NHL right now by points percentage.
My wagon cracking. I called it early in the year.
We'll see. I still
the
don't
Kraken are literally this year's slaves. Joey Decord right now, he's Dustin Wolf of last year.
Quads did pick the Kraken to make the playoffs, by the way. Yeah,
and I did say they are the Flames of.
I'm still not buying it though, as far as them actually making it. Sure. Who else is here? Well, the Rick Tocchet Flyers are 11th in the league by points percentage. I don't think they have enough talent to make it. They just aren't. Credit to Rick Tocchet. He knows how to get a lot out of teams that aren't very good. And again, not expecting the bottom to fall out, but I'd be shocked if they ultimately do make the playoffs.
All right, cool. Anything else?
You know who is fun?
Sure.
They're also top 10 in the NHL by points percentage right now. The New York Islanders. And not just because of Matthew Schaefer.
Yeah, we actually had a question about the Islanders. Yeah.
I watched Isles Red Wings last night, and if you have the same picture of the Isles as you did in the Barry Trotz era, where it's this boring defensive team that is so stingy in their own end and is more of a veteran group, it's a complete 180. Yeah. They're a young, fun, skilled team that creates a lot off the rush, and they're bottom 2 right around the Canucks range as far as being one of the worst defensive teams in the NHL. They give up a lot, but because Sorokin is getting hot, they're getting a lot of saves right now. And the thing about the Isles that a lot of people overlooked in terms of their chances of being competitive is Matt Barzal was injured for most of last year.
Good point.
So it's not just that you got Matthew Schaefer and instantly he's been one of the 10 to 15 best defensemen in the league, fundamentally changing and transforming that Islanders team. But by bringing Barzal in, you've got another top end driver. And now that Horvat and Barzal are playing on separate lines, they've got offense up and down that lineup. Not predicting they're going to make the playoffs necessarily, but they're really fun to watch. And I put it this way, I think they're more likely to make the playoffs than the Rangers, for example.
I agree. There's no way I disagree with that right now. Yeah, Matt Barzal. He's gonna be a good contributor for them this season. I mean, not a hot take at all, but he wasn't there last year, and you make a really good point that that's gonna be a huge difference for them. All right, let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day. What did I end up taking yesterday? I threw like 7 out there, I'm pretty sure. Didn't
You came back to hockey, I know that.
Did
After 2
You
failed
did, yeah.
basketball bets because you realized players.
No, I
were
took
out
the
injured.
Spurs. I took the Spurs.
No, and then you realized Wembanyama wasn't playing, so then you backed out and you went with the hockey game.
Damn it, Spurs won. What hockey game did I go with?
Was it the Islanders Red Wings game? No.
Pretty sure I took the Spurs.
Blues, Flyers.
No, it was the Ducks. It was the Ducks.
That's right.
The Ottawa Senators, and they lost. So we're going back to the NBA, which apparently I know a lot about. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Jacob, you know your job on this segment. You tell me if the players I've heard of are playing tonight.
I'll have my Google fingers ready.
Attaboy. Let's go to basketball. The NBA. The Indiana Pacers.
Do not bet on the
Okay, no. First of all,
Buddy, Tyrese Halliburton. I know him.
Yeah, you do know him.
Just let him keep going.
Yeah, okay.
Just let him keep going, Jacob. Yeah, keep going.
Is Halliburton hurt? I know he got hurt in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, he tore his Achilles or
he ruptured his Achilles. He's out all year.
Oh my gosh. All right. Hang on. Brooklyn Nets, Kevin Durant, right?
No.
All right.
He's on the Rockets now.
Celtics. Oh no, they're a huge favorite.
Wait. Hold on a second. You said Brooklyn Nets Kevin Durant.
He hasn't been there for like 4 years.
That was like 4 years ago. He was most recently on the Suns before going to the Rockets.
Washington Wizards are taking on the Toronto Raptors. John
You know
Wall.
one.
John Wall. Actually, okay. Jokes aside, like the Raptors are a decent team to bet on because they don't have superstars who sit out games. They're kind of like
the Raptors are minus 950 favorites tonight.
Yeah, well, because the Wizards stink. So there you go.
John Wall, that sent me. That reference sent me.
He must be washed. Chicago Bulls, Derrick Rose, Dallas Mavericks, Nowitzki. Okay, I'm gonna stop this. Let's take one here. Okay, here we go. Here's one. Denver Nuggets. They've got the Serbian guy.
Yeah.
Jokic. Plus 120 odds. Is he playing tonight? He doesn't take nights off. There's no way, right? He's playing.
No, I think he is, and the Rockets
Beautiful.
are a good team at home. Like this is kind of like a battle for first place in the West.
Oh, that's going to be a must watch.
Sorry, battle for second place in the West behind OKC.
Yeah,
so, there you go.
That's going to be must watch. James Harden versus Jokic. You've got a great matchup.
No James
Plus 120. Plus 120. I'm taking my Nuggets tonight to take down. I don't know a single Rockets player other than James
Kevin
Harden.
Durant. I just told you.
Kevin Durant is.
Oh, he's on the Rockets now. Wow.
Harm just said that.
I was scrolling through I was still scrolling through the Bet365. What was talking about that? Okay. Anyways,
and James Harden is not there. Just
where's Harden?
Harden's with the Clippers now. Yeah, Harden hasn't been with the Rockets since I want to say 2020. Yeah, he's with the Clippers now.
All right. Yeah, Jokic and the Nuggets plus 120. You can get them at Bet365. That's the money line. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get it on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. All right. We'll wrap it up there for my co-host, Harman Dial, and our technical producer, Jacob Lazar. Have a great weekend, folks. Thanks for watching another episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.